Marcus Aurelius is one of the most famous and well-known Stoic philosophers of all time. He was a Roman emperor from 161 to 180 after Christ, and he was the last ruler from a line later known as the Five Good Emperors. He was in one of the highest positions of power in the world at the time, and would have access to the realization of all his temptations and desires should he wish for them, but instead, he dedicated his life to fairness and justice. During his rule, Aurelius found the time to construct a series of autobiographical writings, now known as the Meditations, which has become one of the most important texts within Stoic philosophy. In the Meditations, Aurelius describes guides on how to improve oneself. These were mostly focused on taking a cosmic perspective and critically analyzing your judgment on yourself and others. As a leader of a powerful empire that experienced multiple wars during his rule, Aurelius used his own Stoic philosophy to let go of stress and worries, and to be the very best and reliable leader he could be. Stoicism is an ancient and incredibly famous philosophy that, aside from a theory, is also a truly inspiring way of thinking and living. The Stoics strongly believed that doing the right thing was the key to individual happiness, and that in order to do the right thing, sound judgment and clear rational thinking was necessary. So with that in mind, in this video, we will talk about how you can develop a rational mind through 5 important lessons that can help you think more clearly from the teachings of Marcus Aurelius. Before we continue, check your channel subscription. It is very important that you are subscribed. Click Be a Member to support us and encourage us to make more videos. Lesson 1. Train your perception. Marcus Aurelius says, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been." One of the greatest lessons of Stoicism is to take control of your perception. We're used to judging everything we come across. Any event we experience, any people we meet, sights we see, all of them get a value judgment. Something was either bad, good, boring, fun, beautiful, ugly, etc. This is, unbeknownst to us, a very exhausting practice, and also one that might affect our lives for the worse. For example, judging every interaction you have on a particularly hard day as awful gives the day itself an even more negative view. If you label a party you went to as boring, that is all it will be, that one boring part of your week. We often let our initial judgments of things be influenced by our emotions, which means that they are most likely not entirely rational. Furthermore, our tendency to judge every moment of our lives goes hand in hand with a tendency to talk in metaphors and hyperboles that make things seem worse. If you get dumped by your partner, you might say your ex broke your heart, instead of the fundamental fact that they no longer feel for you the way they used to. This way of speaking, or rather, this way of thinking, shapes how you feel. It is not the actual event that makes you feel bad, but rather the way you unconsciously choose to think about it. The Stoics, in contrast, encourage people to be careful to judge everything you come across and the things that you do, and one of the ways to be careful is to undo your judgments, which essentially means to look past them, to be able to forget your first instinct and to judge something through a more optimistic and reasonable lens. You can try to reframe that boring party in your mind as an event where you got to see a new place and meet some new people. Okay, afterwards you might note that you didn't really resonate with anyone, but you didn't go in with the expectation of negativity. As such, practicing not to judge everything based on your first instinct and emotion is the very best way to start training your perception on life. Whenever you think about anything in an opinionated way, try to ask yourself, is this rational? What have I based my opinion on? Is there a better or more positive way to interpret this? Marcus Aurelius stressed that harms can only be if you consider them as harms. This means that any hard experience you went through seems harder and worse, the harder and worse you consider it to be. As such, you have complete control over how much certain situations affect you. The Stoics also encourage you to see every bad thing that happens as an opportunity or source for good. As an exercise of training your perspective in a Stoic way, there is a challenge called turning the obstacle upside down. When a new co-worker is a slow learner and their mistakes affect the company's profits, you might feel frustration. This co-worker is an obstacle to what you are trying to achieve: effectiveness, efficiency, and profit. However, this situation can also be an opportunity for good. It is an opportunity for you to exercise and practice patience, to become a better teacher, to learn how to integrate new people into the company, and how to handle stressful times. All of these are skills that will also be useful later and should also help you increase profits in the long run as well. On this subject, Marcus Aurelius famously said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." So, all in all, instead of judging everything you come across in an exaggerated sense, take the time to look at things as they objectively are, and you might find that life is simpler and clearer than you thought. Every situation has a more positive interpretation and a more negative one. When you adjust your mindset accordingly, you will find that nothing bothers you as much as it used to, and you will get through life much more easily. 2. Learn to control your emotions. Marcus Aurelius advises us to stop letting your emotions override what your mind tells you. Stop being hypocritical, self-centered, irritable. Acting out of emotion is often depicted as a stark contrast to acting rationally, and this is not without reason. There is nothing that clouds our judgment more than our own emotions can. So if you want to think clearly at all times, one of the most important skills to master is the ability to control your emotions. According to Marcus Aurelius, the emotion of anger in particular does us more harm than good. Contrary to what many people seem to think or try, controlling your emotions does not mean suppressing them. When you feel intense anger as a result of a betrayal, you cannot control this anger by denying its existence to yourself or others, or by pretending you're fine. It will still be there, no matter how deep down you push it. Instead, controlling emotions such as anger is, according to the Stoics, done by redirecting emotions. So when you are next experiencing anger, ask yourself what you can do with that anger. Yelling at the one who hurt you might seem tempting, but will it help you lessen your hurt or better your situation? Will it help the one who betrayed you be better? In short, think about what you are tempted to do and then ask yourself if it is helpful. If not, find ways to express your emotions that are helpful. Maybe you can achieve better results by calmly talking with the one who hurt you, explaining your feelings, and trying to see their side. You could also journal, take part in physical exercise, get lost in a video game, or anything else that might help you let go of your anger afterward. For another example, take anxiety or fear. You cannot simply push it down, but you can redirect it. Instead of letting anxiety paralyze you, you can use it to challenge yourself to take those actions that make you feel it and acknowledge its existence throughout. Let's say you're too scared to ask your boss for a raise. Lots of people see such fear as a reason not to do something, and they allow themselves to be stopped by their anxieties. Others might be able to go through with it and regard their anxiety as something that is in the way and needs to be pushed down and ignored. But neither has to be the case. Instead, your fear is something that can be expressed healthily and maybe even end up being helpful. For example, this fear makes you think about everything that can go wrong, which can lead you to consider all the possible questions your boss might ask, all the counter-arguments you might get to hear. This way you can brace for them and form a plan for each possible scenario. But most importantly, the fear provides a positive motivation to go through with it, to challenge yourself and grow as a person, to prove to yourself that you can, to make the step not despite your fear, but partly because of it. And in that scenario, you can be aware of the anxiety throughout and think, how awesome that I'm trying this anyway. When you manage to redirect strong emotions with ease, you will be a calm person no matter what, and your emotions will never lessen your ability to think rationally and make smart decisions. Controlling your emotions is the key to a calmer mind. 3. Exercise the dichotomy of control. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The dichotomy of control is the distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. For example, the weather, traffic issues, or what people think about you are all outside of your control. But how you dress, at what time you leave, and the kind of people you surround yourself with, that you can control. So whenever you face a situation that makes you feel a certain way, ask yourself, what can I control? Whatever you can control is a reason to act. Whatever you cannot control, you should learn to accept and embrace without letting it affect you. Learning to distinguish these two things and act accordingly can clear your mind instantly. A very important part of the dichotomy of control is amor fati, or translated, love for fate. When you embrace life and all the circumstances it brings you, you will always love life. You cannot escape fate or decide circumstances that are out of your control, but you can choose to love your life no matter what. If you find that you are rejected for a job you have wanted for years, you might think there is no redemption in such a situation. You wanted the job, tried and failed. You couldn't possibly pretend to love fate in a circumstance like this. However, this is a misunderstanding. Instead of viewing the fact you didn't fulfill your ambition purely as a negative, investigate what led to the negative result and use it to make a positive move. Either the reason you didn't get the job was a failure on your part, in which case this is something you can control. You can work on those failings and try again when a similar opportunity appears in the future. Or the reason was an external factor, like nepotism or a personality clash with a member of the hiring staff. This was never in your control, meaning the opportunity never truly existed, and there's no point getting upset over something that has never existed. One part of accepting fate is distancing yourself from a fixed outcome and from external markers of success. If you want to be a writer, for example, and measure your success by the amount of sales your book makes, then you will let your success be controlled by the arbitrary book market of the time. But if you choose to measure your success by how satisfied you are with your finished product, or by the amount of work you put into it, then you are in control of your success. So by all means, make sure to do everything in power to try and achieve your goals. But never forget that you might not achieve them, and accept this possibility in advance. If we occupy ourselves only with what is in our control, and vow to accept everything that isn't the exact way it comes, then one will find themselves being calm, whatever happens. 4. Embrace the virtues. Quoting Marcus Aurelius, "Delve deep within yourself, for a wellspring of goodness is ready to gush forth if you persist in your quest." A virtue can be seen as an excellence of character, or more simply put, morally upright behavior. Such behavior not only benefits you and those around you, but also contributes to the greater good. Stoicism embraces the idea of an interconnected universe where everything and everyone share a link. Consequently, what serves the greater good eventually benefits you as well. Thus, the Stoics firmly believed that those most in harmony with reason were the ones who dedicated themselves to the broader welfare. In other words, they practiced virtues. Contrarily, the absence of virtuous conduct is attributed to ignorance, according to the Stoics. When life propels you into unforeseen circumstances, virtues can be your guiding stars, directing you on the right path and keeping you grounded. This is why individuals most enriched with virtues often emanate tranquility and composure. To embody virtuous qualities, one must internalize the 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism: wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage. In the Stoic perspective, wisdom is the ability to distinguish between good, bad, neutral, and everything in between. It entails transcending the sway of emotions, allowing reason to govern what is morally just. Confronted with a dilemma, wisdom empowers you to analyze both options with a clear mind. Next comes justice. Wisdom is the foundation of justice, entailing a commitment to what is right and equitable for both oneself and others. The Stoics regarded it as a duty towards oneself, fellow humans, and society as a whole. Courage, the third virtue, enables action even in the face of personal fear. It propels you to act for the greater good or undertake tasks despite uncertainty about the outcome. Courage doesn't entail the eradication of fear, desire, or anxiety, but rather the conscious decision to proceed, surmounting emotional barriers. Lastly, temperance. Also known as moderation, temperance signifies maintaining a balanced path between extremes. It's about exercising self-control, restraint, and discipline. Marcus Aurelius highlighted the human trait of self-regulation, setting us apart from animals. Temperance prioritizes long-term well-being over fleeting gratification. Consider a mundane example: a bag of chips. Indulging in the entire bag might bring momentary pleasure, yet it jeopardizes health and even mood. Here, exercising temperance means pausing after a few bites. Wisdom is instrumental in gauging the right amount to consume before stopping. Stoicism categorizes things and actions into goods, evils, and indifference. Seeking the good, avoiding evil, and embracing indifference according to personal preference were guiding principles. Departing from these virtues equated to fostering evil, stealing, disrespecting, recklessness, or abstaining from good. Indifferent actions such as taking a leisurely stroll did neither. These principles offer more than just personal betterment. They foster a state of serene composure. Aligning your actions with these virtues ensures you always tread the path of righteousness, guided by reason, and thus cultivating a tranquil mind. 5. Embrace a broader perspective. In our concluding quote from Marcus Aurelius, he eloquently echoes Plato's wisdom. Whenever you want to talk about people, it's best to take a bird's-eye view and see everything all at once. Adopting a wide-angle view is a remarkably vital aspect of achieving mental clarity. In the hustle and bustle of life, we often find ourselves entrenched in the midst of every issue, each challenge feeling as if it carries the weight of the world. Imagine being part of a small crowd. It might appear as if the entire city is suffocating in congestion. Yet, shifting your vantage point just a few steps away can reveal an entirely different reality. In essence, when we detach and contemplate the grand tapestry of our world and existence, we realize how minute our personal experiences are and how infinitesimal we are in the vast scheme of things. This shift in perspective unveils the expansive realm beyond our immediate encounter. Often people overlook the truth that their own encounters and viewpoints aren't the only ones deserving of consideration, even within their own lives. Consider someone who's had an unfavorable experience with dogs. They might find it challenging to fathom that dogs could be cherished companions to others, unless they deliberately acknowledge the possibility of diverse experiences. From time to time, it's imperative to step back and inquire, what am I neglecting or failing to grasp? This introspective practice bears multiple benefits. For instance, envisage having to choose between remaining in your current job or pursuing a newly available position elsewhere. Such a decision might seem daunting, especially if you're uncertain whether either option will fulfill your aspirations. While your current job offers stability and you're wary of the additional responsibilities tied to a promotion, the allure of a better salary beckons. You might feel ensnared within this dilemma. However, a wealth of untapped prospects lies beneath the surface. Have you contemplated venturing into a completely different field, or exploring a side venture that complements your current job? Perhaps immersing yourself in a passion to shift your focus away from tasks you find less appealing. It's entirely plausible that numerous unexplored avenues in life are eluding your awareness. Adopting a panoramic perspective, rather than fixating solely on immediate concerns, significantly aids in informed decision-making. Broadening your scope isn't only valuable for determining priorities, but also for shaping your opinions. To form a comprehensive judgment, it's imperative to consider all facets and possibilities within a given situation. Moreover, stepping back signifies distancing yourself from personal biases and viewpoints. Temporarily relinquishing your desires can offer a fresh vantage point, prompting you to reflect on those around you and your responsibilities towards them. In the intensity of the moment, you might perceive an action like littering as inconsequential. However, when you pause and widen your perspective to encompass the entirety of the world and the potential consequences if everyone were to follow suit, the insignificance of your inclination to litter becomes starkly apparent in contrast to the well-being of the planet. As previously mentioned, The Stoics firmly believed in the interconnectedness of everything in the world, positing that the overall betterment of the world inherently contributes to one's personal well-being. Hence, taking a step back to embrace a global viewpoint rather than solely focusing on your own life holds immense significance. Confronted with a decision, adversity, challenge, or life-altering change, you have the capacity to pose introspective queries. Whether in the heat of the moment or later on, perhaps while strolling outdoors or during a reflective journaling session, an activity that Marcus Aurelius particularly advocated, these questions allow you to delve deeper into your thoughts and actions. You might think that in the heat of the moment, littering is not a big deal. But when you step back and think of the entirety of the world, of the possibility of everybody else doing it, you finally see the smallness of your desire to litter in comparison to the well-being of the world. As said before, the Stoics thought that everything in the world is interconnected, and that the general well-being of the world improves your personal well-being as well. Thus, taking a step back and looking at the world as a whole instead of just your life is tremendously important. When facing a choice, hardship, problem, or change in life, you can inwardly ask yourself some questions. This can be in the moment, or later on, perhaps when you're thinking through your day, whether while out for a walk or when journaling about them, something Aurelius was a particular fan of. The most common questions to ask yourself are, what could the long-term effects of my choice action be? How could someone else's perspective on this differ from mine? Do I know somebody in a similar situation or with similar goals to mine that could help? Does my choice action affect my well-being? Does it affect the well-being of those around me? Are there any choices I have not considered yet? Taking the time to consider all aspects of the world helps yourself in the way that it helps you understand your actions, thoughts, life, and choices more clearly. And it helps yourself in the way that it allows you to help the world. When you consider the whole picture, you will always have an overseeing view that leaves you free from unnecessary restraint, bias, or doubt. Have you ever found yourself in the midst of a rush hour on public transportation, packed like sardines, only to be met with the unmistakable scent of sweat from the person in front of you? Well, this situation can trigger irritation, especially when this person turns out to be a loud-mouthed, antisocial asshole who is antisocial and arguing with a friend on speakerphone. And when someone calls him out, he just blurts out some cuss words and continues his disruptive behavior. We've all been there, encountering nasty people in the outside world, don't we? Assholes are everywhere. They're on the bus, on the train, on the streets, in restaurants, at work, in traffic, and even in our private spaces. These difficult individuals come from all corners of the world and all walks of life, just don't know how to behave. Or perhaps they do know but don't even bother doing so. So how do we deal with such people? It turns out that the ancient Stoics have some answers. Dealing with difficult people is a common theme in Stoic literature. They talked about deceptive brothers, bad fathers, individuals who pushed in public baths, and those who lacked manners and hygiene when using public facilities. So what can we do about loud and smelly commuters, unpleasant co-workers, or even abusive or narcissistic people we share our living spaces with? This video delves deeper into dealing with these difficult people, including those with hygiene issues, through the lens of Stoic philosophy and some relevant personal experiences. Don't miss the chance to apply Stoic principles to deal with life's adversities. Grab the Stoic Mindset ebook now and discover how to cultivate serenity in the midst of chaos, make wiser decisions, and overcome adversity with mental strength. Click on the link in the first pinned comment and embark on your journey of wisdom. After Epictetus was banished from Rome, he traveled to Nicopolis, a city in northern Greece, where he spent the rest of his life. In Nicopolis, he founded a philosophical school, and among his students was a young and bright man named Arrian. Without Arrian, we wouldn't have the esteemed teachings of Epictetus today, as Arrian wrote down a vast collection of lectures and created a pocketbook with his teacher's most important lessons. One of these lessons features a cornerstone of Roman civilization: bathing. Public bathhouses were prevalent in the Roman Empire, and the Roman bathing culture, based on that of the ancient Greeks, spread throughout the Mediterranean. Bathing was primarily a social practice. Romans visited the bathhouse to meet friends, invite them to parties, and politicians even used it as a place to collect support from the people. Even the super wealthy, who could afford private bathing spaces, frequented public baths due to their social aspects. These bathhouses provided citizens with a place to work out, socialize, relax, and have fun. However, as you might guess, with a wide variety of people visiting crowded public spaces, there was no shortage of those who splashed water intentionally, came to steal, or believed the bathhouse was their property, and behaved accordingly. Yes, reading Stoic texts, we can see that in many ways human nature hasn't changed much. And difficult people are a timeless occurrence. So what did Epictetus suggest regarding handling the difficult people of his time? Epictetus advised his students to remember the nature of their activities. Specific characteristics can be attributed to every action in the bathhouse. For example, there are things we can expect when we go there, even though we may not like them. People splashing water, pushing others, using abusive language, shouting, intimidating, or even doing a cannonball, if that was a thing back then. By being aware of these aspects inherent to the bath, we shouldn't be surprised when encountering them. So what should we do, according to Epictetus? He suggests that the focal point shouldn't be just bathing, but also keeping one's mind calm and under control. He said, "Thus you will more safely go about this action if you say to yourself, 'I will now go bathe and keep my own mind in a state conformable to nature,' and in the same manner with regard to every other action. For thus, if any hindrance arises in bathing, you will have it ready to say, 'It was not only to bathe that I desired, but to keep my mind in a state conformable to nature, and I will not keep it if I am bothered at things that happen.'" Similarly, we can apply this approach to taking public transport. What is the nature of this activity? Is taking public transport always quiet, with seats available for everyone, and with lovely and friendly people on the bus or train? Do trains always arrive on time without exception? Any commuter will probably admit that, even though positive experiences occur, they don't fully represent the nature of taking public transport. Instead, there are many unpleasant aspects, such as loudmouthed, smelly, antisocial people who try to dodge fares, take up too much space, and put their phones on speaker mode in a fully packed subway car. So, what's the Stoic way of taking public transport? Based on Epictetus, the answer is twofold. First, before leaving, Stoics contemplate the nature of traveling with public transport. Second, Stoics focus on keeping their minds calm while partaking in the activity. When taking the bus, expect the possibility of delay, and when taking the train, expect to encounter unfriendly personnel and nasty passengers. Marcus Aurelius, considered one of the good emperors, was also a follower of the Stoic philosophical school. As an emperor, he had to deal with people all day, every day, including some pretty difficult ones. Some people were rude and demanding, while others were unfair and untrustworthy. Being an emperor was an enormous responsibility, and the burden was heavy. Just imagine being the most influential person alive, with many envious of you and trying to take your place, while a vast empire depends on your choices. Understandably, Marcus Aurelius sought an outlet for his thoughts, and this took the form of a diary in which he wrote his reflections. He wrote about fortitude in times of need, the meaning of life, the nature of being human, and unsurprisingly, about dealing with difficult people. Let's look at a curious example of Marcus Aurelius's writings in which he urged himself not to be bothered by people's foul body odors. He stated, "Don't be irritated at people's smell or bad breath. What's the point with that mouth and those armpits? They're going to produce that odor, but they have a brain. Can they figure it out? Can they recognize the problem? So you have a brain as well. Good for you. Then use your logic to awaken his. Show him, make him realize it. If he'll listen, then you'll have solved the problem without anger. The underlying thought behind this approach is that we ultimately cannot control other people's behavior. Marcus Aurelius realized that even as an emperor, he didn't have complete power over his subjects. As we've likely experienced with people around us, they have their own brains, will, and freedom of action. If something bothers us about them, we can only point it out and state the issue clearly. But is that a guarantee that they'll listen? Chances are that they don't care about what we say. Some people may have hygiene issues and not care at all unless you can force them to take a bath and put on deodorant. Their hygiene is not in your power, and, as the Stoics would say, it's not worth worrying about. When people exhibit behaviors we don't like, we often scrutinize these behaviors closely. An example almost everyone can relate to is how we see our parents, especially as we grow older. We tend to focus on the negative characteristics of our parents, while overlooking the positive ones. Yes, some parents make terrible choices, some can't take criticism, and some are nosy. These facets can drive a wedge between us and them, but we can't simply disregard them because they persist in the background whenever we communicate with them. These characteristics are what make these people difficult, and unfortunately, there often isn't much we can do about them, as only they can decide to change. However, Epictetus urged us not to give up on these people just yet. The Stoic philosopher shares a lesson rooted in tolerance, showing that all things, including people, have more sides to them apart from their negative characteristics. Epictetus spoke to a pupil who struggled with a brother who acted unfairly, either with him or with others. He gave him the following suggestion: everything has two handles, one you can bear it with and one you can't. If your brother is unfair, and you try to grasp the situation by the handle of his unfairness, you're using the handle that won't work. Grasp the situation by the other handle, that he is your brother, and the two of you were reared together, and you can carry it well. In many cases, from personal experience, changing perspectives goes a long way. Sometimes, especially when I'm alone with my thoughts, I find my mind magnifying people's negative sides, turning them into villains wreaking havoc on their surroundings. The handle, as Epictetus called it, becomes more significant than the person it's attached to. What helps is simply focusing on the other side of the person, as there's much more to someone than just being a jerk, a liar, an idiot, or a drama queen. There might be complementary aspects that could still support a bond, other handles to carry it with. However, the situation can be so bad at times that we cannot carry it even by the handles we consider acceptable. Some people are just too toxic to be around. If that's the case, keep watching. Imagine sharing your home with someone who starts a fire that produces smoke. As long as the fire is manageable and the smoke tolerable, you don't see a reason to leave. But what will you do when the smoke becomes unbearable? Will you stay inside or get out? Let me share something personal, something I've struggled with for a long time. I haven't spoken to a familiar for more than 5 years now. We used to be very close, but in the spring of 2018, I cut off contact for good reasons. It was an accumulation of experiences, some of which are quite disturbing when I recall them. This familiar exhibits the criteria of narcissistic personality disorder listed by the DSM-5, although it was never officially diagnosed because it doesn't believe it has a problem, in contrast to the world around it, of course. Regardless of what label might belong to this familiar, its complete disregard for personal boundaries, manipulation, pathological lying, self-aggrandizement, obsession with vengeance, and its path of self-destruction, not to mention the destruction of other people's lives, were too much for me to tolerate. I had to escape. The idea that this familiar is still my familiar, and therefore I should have it in my life, lost more and more of its credibility as incidents continued to pile up. And I wasn't the only victim. For years I contemplated the words of Epictetus. Are you naturally entitled then to a good father? No, only to a father. Although this familiar that I'm saying is not my father, the example of Epictetus' words is well placed. While that's true, I also had to recognize that there are limits to what one should bear. At some point, enough is enough. In the vast collection of recorded lectures by Epictetus called Discourses, he presents a simile about smoke in a house. It goes like this. As someone made a smoke in the house, if he has made a moderate amount of smoke, I shall stay. If too much, I go outside. This simile is generally explained as an argument that supports the idea of suicide, suggesting that when life becomes too burdensome, it's okay to leave. However, when we look at the passages preceding the simile, it seems that Epictetus is referring to difficult people, as they tell a story about someone not wanting to dine at someone's house because he cannot stand his boasting. Thus, Epictetus concluded, only do nothing as one burdened or afflicted, or thinking that he is in a wretched plight, for no one forces you to this. Here he seemed to emphasize our ability to choose when dealing with difficult people, or even full-blown narcissists. The question is there a possibility to leave? If the answer is yes, you can walk through that door and never look back at any time. When people have hurt us, we might entertain fantasies of revenge, and an eye for an eye may seem fair. If someone has harmed us or done an injustice, aren't we justified in giving them a taste of their own medicine? My dealings with my familiar evoked similar sentiments in me. For years I thought about revenge, about how I would settle the score. I certainly wouldn't use the same methods as him. My idea of revenge was success. As a kid, I was never good enough, always at fault, perpetually deficient. I figured that my best revenge would be to show it that I had achieved more success than he ever had. Although this form of revenge was constructive and not primarily aimed at harming someone, it was still revenge, still fueled by anger. So I sacrificed a part of my happiness to get back at it, which in retrospect was quite absurd. Not only did I keep my heart awake, but I also wasted my energy pursuing something ultimately out of my control, getting a reaction from my familiar. My desired reaction from it was a mixture of awe, recognition, regret, acceptance, and maybe, just maybe, an apology. But I realized it had probably never give me these things, no matter how much I accomplished. Epictetus presented a different outlook on the futility of revenge. In essence, he saw revenge as unnecessary and an act of harm to oneself. If we seek revenge because of an injury, something someone has done to us, let's first consider Epictetus' suggestion to think about what injury is. What is injury? When someone betrays you, are you injured? When someone chops off your hand, are you injured? By conventional standards, you would likely consider such events to be injuries. But Epictetus stated that actual injury entails a lack of morality in one's actions. Therefore, if someone lies to you or steals from you, that person has injured himself, as he has damaged his virtue, which is the true and only good according to the Stoics. Epictetus stated, "For if the good lies in moral purpose, and the evil likewise in moral purpose, see if what you are saying does not come to something like this. Well, what then, since so-and-so has injured himself by doing me some wrong, shall I not injure myself by doing him some wrong?" Revenge is sweet, so they say, and while this is true in some cases, the sweetness is often short-lived. Whether or not virtue is the only good is a topic for discussion, but in my opinion, Epictetus had a point when he said that by injuring the man who had hurt me, I would hurt myself. It's a different way of saying, never stoop down to their level. It's not worth it. Moreover, the intended injury may not even occur, as the suffering we hope to inflict ultimately depends on how they react to our actions, which is not in our control. Welcome everyone to Dare Me Motivational Channel. It is an honor to be here to deliver yet another valuable content to each one of you. In today's world, there are people who are much more intelligent than others. Wise individuals know how to use strategies to appear more intelligent than others, even when deep down, they may not be more intelligent than them. So how is this possible? In this video, I will discuss the things that wise individuals do quietly to gain an advantage in society because of it. Keep this in mind throughout this video. When exposing themselves in certain situations, it's clear they have much more to lose than to gain. Want to discover what wise individuals do and the strategies they use to be more intelligent than most people? Then come with me. And as usual, don't be weak. Stay until the end. Don't miss the chance to master your emotions. Grab the self-knowledge ebook now. Click the link in the first pinned comment and unlock your true potential. Let's divide this video into topics, starting with number 1, problem solving and resilience. The wise solve their problems instead of complaining about them. This focus on problem solving and a resilient attitude is supported by Stoic philosophy. It promotes the idea that we should accept life's challenges with calmness and determination. Complaining is seen as a negative and unproductive attitude. Intelligent individuals analyze the problem, think of solutions, and try to solve it. Each attempt contributes to gaining more experience, making it easier to solve future challenges. Number 2, learning from others' mistakes. Smart individuals analyze others' mistakes in line with the philosophy. Subconsciously, they apply the principles of Stoic wisdom. Instead of constantly correcting and judging others for their mistakes, they quietly observe and learn. Constant correction can create intrigue and even push people away. It's better to observe and learn from others' mistakes, paying attention to details. Avoid constantly correcting others, as not everyone takes criticism well. Learn quietly from these mistakes and avoid wasting time trying to convince someone they are wrong. Instead, focus on learning and growing from these observations. Number 3, putting plans into action. Smart individuals, following Stoic philosophy from figures like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, understand that we should act in the present moment instead of waiting for ideal circumstances. Intelligent people don't believe in the story of the right time or the perfect moment. Of course, there are times when it's good to wait. After all, you don't take the food off the stove before it's ready or speed up when the traffic light is red. However, in most cases, it's crucial to start putting your plan into action, regardless of the idea or plan you have. If you don't act, you'll become stagnant and live in mediocrity by not making use of time. Smart people don't wait for the perfect moment or opportunity. They work with what they have and adapt to difficulties, gaining experience and maturity throughout life, even in the face of adversity. If you don't face difficulties along the way, you'll never learn and never be strong enough to withstand the pressures of the future. So, if you want something to work, start now, because it's much better to act than to wait indefinitely and end up enjoying nothing. Number 4, identifying bad influences. Recognizing and distancing yourself from bad influences aligns with the Stoic principle of cultivating virtues and avoiding vices. One of the worst things you can do in social matters is to confront someone whose attitude displeases you. For example, you're in an environment where you know a certain person is a bad influence, someone with no emotional control who stirs up trouble with those around and disrupts the peace of others. If you're in this environment with this person and decide to confront or tell them they are bad, they will likely do everything to disturb your peace. People without character love to disrupt others' peace and pleasure. In our problematic society, just one wrong word can cause chaos. I'm not kidding, just look at the news. How many fights happen daily in bars or in traffic? It's not pleasant, it's disastrous. When you identify someone as a bad influence in a place, distance yourself from that person and focus on what you need to do during that time, without exposing yourself or engaging with that kind of individual. Number 5, observing gaze and non-verbal communication. The way people look at you reveals a lot about them. The ability to observe micro-expressions and non-verbal language aligns with the Stoic attitude of paying attention to subtle details. Gaze communicates a lot, sometimes more than the words themselves. If someone shares big news but their gaze is sad, you'll perceive that the news isn't as good as they claim. Likewise, If someone expresses joy for your achievements but maintains a downcast gaze, you'll understand that this person never truly supported you. In summary, gaze can reveal a lot about someone because the eyes can't lie. They always tell the truth, even if the words are false. Therefore, pay close attention to how people look at you or how they move their eyes while speaking. If someone says they trust you but can't even look you in the eyes while making that statement, it's because they don't truly trust you. Be attentive not only to the gaze, but also to how they try to conceal it. This can provide crucial information to understand the facts of a situation. Knowing this, silently observe the gazes of others, as you'll discover much about what they're trying to hide. Number 6. Gathering valuable information. Smart individuals value information and handle it carefully, a philosophy aligned with Stoic self-discipline and moderation. It's crucial not to easily divulge information, as information is a valuable treasure. Imagine you're a business person and receive information from a contact in a certain company, information that benefits your business. If you share this source with other entrepreneurs, they might use it for their own benefit, not necessarily to harm you. Sharing the source of your information is a mistake, because information is a treasure for the mind. We live in the age of information, where information is pure gold. It provides security, the ability to know whom to trust and whom not to, and most importantly, guides your choices and avoidances. Therefore, whenever possible, silently gather information and never reveal the extent of the information you possess. Stay concealed so that no one understands why your decisions are always on point. Number 7. Analyzing thoughts and distinguishing the constructive from the destructive. Intelligent individuals practice examining their thoughts and emotions to discern their value, aligning with the Stoic approach of mastering their own reactions. Throughout the day, we think about thousands of things, and everyday situations influence our thoughts. Let's consider an example. If you've been through stressful moments early in the day, you'll still have thoughts of anger and discouragement when going to bed. That's why we should clear our conscience daily. In a quiet place, analyze what is constructive and what is destructive. For example, if you think about harming someone, dismiss that thought immediately. Seek a better solution or how to avoid letting that person affect you. If you're constantly focused on recent negative events, seek to build a solution or find something that makes you more satisfied or happy. If you tend to think with anger or hatred, address these thoughts and emotions to the point of not feeding them, and if possible, eliminating them. Allowing these destructive ideas to settle in your mind is like letting society take over your home. Eventually, they'll expand to the point where you live in an unhealthy place. Your mind works similarly. It will occupy your mind with destructive thoughts to the point where your mind will explode, losing reason. Number 8. Observing people's intentions silently. Paying attention to hidden motivations and underlying intentions aligns with the Stoic principle of discerning between what is within and outside our control. Let's suppose a person has never paid attention to you, always being distant and indifferent. However, you land an excellent job at a company where everyone would like to work. After a week, a month, or 2 months, that distant person approaches you in a friendly and enthusiastic manner, sometimes even wanting to hang out with you. Why, after getting this job, does this previously indifferent person suddenly become so friendly? Because they also want a job at that company and are now trying to create a connection with you to see if you can help them get one. Stay vigilant and try to perceive these sudden approaches. A person can be friendly and genuine, and perhaps there's nothing to suspect, but certain people hide their intentions behind a friendly facade. This becomes evident when someone who didn't care about you starts approaching out of the blue. Stay alert and try to notice these sudden approaches, for a smile can hide hidden intentions. In summary, by adopting Stoic principles in our daily lives, we can cultivate a mindset grounded in self-discipline, serenity, and constant improvement. From solving problems with determination to discerning others' true intentions, these Stoic lessons encourage us to live wisely and virtuously, facing challenges with calmness and nurturing relationships and attitudes that enable us to thrive in an ever-changing world. Have you ever wondered if the people in your life are truly there for you, or just taking advantage of your kindness? It's like standing at a crossroads, uncertain which path leads to genuine connections. Well, you're not alone in this journey. Though unique to each of us, it's a shared experience to navigate a maze of relationships, trying to discern the genuine from the fake. As Marcus Aurelius once stated, it's crucial to understand the nature of those we associate with. Let's delve into the heart of this matter. In this discussion, we'll explore 16 subtle yet revealing signs that someone might be taking advantage of you. These aren't just random pointers. They're meticulously crafted insights derived from an understanding of human behavior and emotions. From recognizing one-sided conversations to identifying when your generosity is being exploited, these indicators will empower you to see beyond the surface. But why is this significant, you may ask? Because you deserve relationships that uplift you, that highlight your best. It's not just about avoiding exploiters, it's about attracting and nurturing bonds that are truly enriching. This concerns your personal development, your well-being. So, are you ready to revolutionize how you perceive and navigate your relationships, moving towards more authentic and fulfilling connections? Sign 1. Diminishing comments. Diminishing comments are like hidden rocks in a stream, seemingly inconsequential but capable of causing stumbling. Imagine sharing a personal achievement only to be met with a sarcastic "is that all?" or confiding your aspirations only to see them belittled. These aren't mere casual remarks. They're subtle instruments used by some to keep you in a perpetual state of self-doubt, skillfully designed to diminish your sense of worth. From a Stoic perspective, these comments offer an opportunity for introspection and resilience. Remember, Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions, but understanding and managing them. When faced with such observations, reflect on the Stoic principle of focusing on what's within your control. Your reaction is your power. Realize that these comments reveal more about the insecurities of the speaker than about your value. You have the choice to allow these words to dominate you, or to recognize them for what they truly are, reflections of someone else's inner turmoil. Face these comments with equanimity and self-assurance. A Stoic doesn't engage in petty verbal battles. Instead, they stand firm in their own worth. Surround yourself with positivity, with individuals who genuinely support and encourage you. Life, seen through the Stoic lens, is too precious to be obscured by others' insecurities. Maintain your inner peace and let your actions speak for themselves. After all, in the Stoic pursuit of personal growth, your self-esteem is not a tool to be undermined by others. It's your shield, your unwavering strength against those who seek to exploit you for their own gain. Sign 2. Broken promises. Have you noticed how some people in your life seem all talk and no action? They're like wordsmiths, weaving stories and promises with the skill of a seasoned storyteller. Yet when it comes time to act, they vanish, leaving behind a trail of unfulfilled promises. This is the illusion of investment, a deceptive and cunning act where words are hung like bright ornaments, distracting you from the lack of commitment or real action. In these situations, it's crucial to observe not just what is said, but what is done. Actions, unlike words, don't lie. They're the true measure of someone's intent and commitment. When promises become freely given but rarely fulfilled, it's a sign. Pay attention to the pattern. Does this person consistently fall short when it matters most? If so, it's time to question their sincerity. It's like building a house with someone who brings beautiful plans, but never shows up at the construction site. The foundation of trust cannot be built on words alone. And remember, it's not about being cynical, but being discerning. Trust and relationships are built on a balance of words and actions. When someone's actions consistently don't match their words, it's a red flag. Perhaps they're more interested in the idea of being seen as supportive than actually being supportive. Recognizing this, you empower yourself to make informed decisions about who you allow into your inner circle. After all, your time and emotional investment are precious. Save them for those who not only speak, but also act with sincerity and integrity. Sign 3. Unilateral benefit. Navigating relationships can often feel like walking on a tightrope, especially when you find yourself in the situation of unilateral benefit. Unilateral benefit is like rowing a boat alone while someone else enjoys the ride, offering nothing in return. Imagine constantly being the giver in a relationship, offering support, time, or resources, only to encounter deafening silence when you need it. It's not just about being generous, it's a clear sign that you're being undervalued. Stoicism teaches mutual respect and balance, essential for any healthy relationship. Your worth is not measured by your generosity or availability. Recognize this unilateral dynamic and dare to set boundaries. It's not selfish, it's self-respect. Engage in honest conversations and observe who adjusts. Those who refuse to reciprocate are simply making room for people who truly value you. Quality trumps quantity in relationships. You're not just a resource, you're a person deserving of reciprocal and balanced connection. Don't settle for a one-person show. You deserve a support team on this journey called life. After all, how else can you grow if your emotions or needs are ignored? You may not realize it immediately, but when someone consistently ignores your feelings and needs, it's like carrying a weight that only gets heavier. It's a subtle, often silent form of manipulation. Imagine every time you speak, your words seem to evaporate before reaching their ears. Or when you're down, they breeze past you as if you're just another piece of furniture. This isn't just neglect, it's a deliberate act to keep you under their control. A clear divergence from the Stoic principle of mutual respect and empathy. They become the artists of your emotional landscape, painting it with colors of neglect and indifference, while your palette of needs remains untouched. This pattern is a big red flag waving in the winds of your relationship. To break free from these chains, start by listening to your inner voice. It's that silent whisper that says this isn't right. Trust it. You're not a supporting character in someone else's story. You're the protagonist of your own story. When your emotions are ignored, speak up. Sign 4. Subtle behavior change. Sometimes a subtle change in someone's behavior can be a revealing sign of hidden motivations. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, stated, "The character of a person is revealed by how they act in difficult situations." Therefore, when you notice a sudden change in someone's behavior towards you, it's essential to pay attention. For example, if someone who used to be warm and attentive suddenly becomes distant and reserved without apparent reason, it may indicate that they're emotionally withdrawing. Similarly, if someone who has always been straightforward and direct starts to be evasive and vague in their responses, it may suggest that they're hiding something from you. As Stoics, we must remain vigilant and question these behavior changes. It's not just about being suspicious, but about maintaining the integrity of our relationships. Open and honest communication is crucial for resolving misunderstandings and maintaining mutual trust. Remember, it's preferable to face the truth than to live in illusion. Only then can we build solid relationships based on sincerity and authenticity. Sign 5. Emotional manipulation. Consider the wise words of Marcus Aurelius, a beacon of Stoic philosophy. You have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This profound insight is your armor in the subtle battlefield of emotional manipulation. Imagine navigating a relationship, a friendship, or even the workplace where your confidence begins to wane, not due to a personal change, but because of someone else's hidden agenda to manipulate your feelings. The manipulator, disguised as a friend or ally, skillfully undermines your self-esteem. They employ a cunning mixture of praise and criticism, making you dependent on their validation. This is not just a betrayal of trust, it's an insidious attack on your autonomy, a central principle in Stoic thought. To resist this, embrace the Stoic practice of self-awareness and personal sovereignty. Trust your instincts. If interactions leave you more drained than uplifted, take note. This awareness is your first step towards empowerment. Boundaries are not just lines drawn in the sand, they're the walls of your mental fortress. Defend your values, question inconsistencies, and most importantly, engage with those who respect and encourage your growth. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that our mental space is ours to govern. By protecting it, we not only honor ourselves, but also uphold the Stoic virtue of self-control in the face of emotional manipulation. Remember that your peace of mind is your most valuable possession. Protect it with the wisdom of a Stoic warrior. Sign 6. Lack of genuine support. At the core of every meaningful relationship is the foundation of genuine support. It's like having a personal cheerleader who's with you in every high and low moment. But what happens when that support is absent? It's like walking on a tightrope without a safety net. You take a step expecting an encouraging word or a helping hand, only to find emptiness. This absence is a clear red flag in any relationship, signaling that you may be in the company of someone who sees you only as a stepping stone to their own growth, rather than a partner in growth. Genuine support doesn't mean constant agreement or unwavering support. It's about having someone who values your dreams as much as theirs. When that's absent, your triumphs and trials become mere background noise to them. They may agree with your stories, but their minds are elsewhere. They're like shadows that appear when the sun shines bright, but vanish at the first sign of a storm. Such relationships are draining, leaving you feeling alone in your endeavors. It's crucial to recognize these patterns when your joys and sorrows are met with indifference or empty words. It's a sign to reassess the depth and direction of the connection. To thrive, surround yourself with people who genuinely invest in your well-being. It's not about finding people who just agree, but those who challenge and uplift you, celebrating your victories and standing by you in your defeats. In a world where relationships often can be superficial, cultivating connections rooted in mutual respect and genuine interest is not just invigorating, it's essential. These are the bonds that not only withstand the test of time, but also propel you forward, enriching your life with a sense of purpose and shared understanding. Sign 7. Constant competition. When every interaction feels like a tally in a hidden game of give and take, you're facing silent scoring, a stealthy sign of being used. Unlike friendly competition, which thrives on mutual growth and shared victories, this is a one-sided match, where someone's kindness comes with a silent invoice and their favors are disguised transactions. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, warns us against such imbalances in relationships, emphasizing the importance of genuine connections over calculated exchanges. In this game of silent scoring, you feel indebted, as if each gesture has strings attached, turning friendships into balance sheet entries. The key to overcoming this is awareness and setting boundaries. Understand that your worth is not measured by what you can offer in someone else's tally. Build relationships based on mutual respect and support, as true Stoic wisdom teaches us to value connections for their sincerity, not for their utility. By doing so, you embrace the essence of Stoicism, fostering relationships that enrich both your life and others, free from the burden of hidden scores. Sign 8. Absence in critical moments. Fair-weather friends are like shadows present during your brightest days, but nowhere to be found during your darkest hours. This pattern of behavior is a telling sign of being used. Picture this: you're surrounded by laughter and smiles when things are good, but as soon as the tide turns, their support vanishes like mist. These individuals see relationships as mere conveniences, stumbling blocks for their own gain. They're like actors playing their part when the script benefits them, but exit the stage when the situation demands more than they're willing to give. Their absence in your moments of need is not just disappointing, it's a loud statement of their true intentions. Stoicism teaches us to see people and situations as they really are, not as we wish them to be. Faced with this behavior, a Stoic approach isn't about bitterness, but clarity and self-respect. Reflect on these relationships with a clear and lucid mind. Understand that genuine bonds are tested not in joy, but in adversity. When someone consistently disappears in your time of need, it's a sign to reassess their role in your life. Remember that your worth doesn't diminish based on someone's inability to see your value. Instead, focus on building relationships with those who stand by your side, not only in sunshine, but also in storm. Sign 9. Lack of reciprocity. Imagine being in a relationship where you're always the one giving your time, care, and even your Netflix password, while the other person seems to only receive, rarely contributing. This is a classic case of lack of reciprocity, a red flag waving fiercely in the breeze of your interactions. Stoicism teaches us the value of balance and mutual respect in relationships. If you're constantly sending good morning messages, planning dates, or listening to their problems without ever receiving the same attention, it's time to pause and reflect. Is this relationship a two-way street, or does it seem more like a lonely one-way road? To address this imbalance, first look inward. Stoicism isn't about changing others, but understanding and adjusting our responses. Ask yourself, am I allowing this imbalance by not communicating my needs? It's not about keeping score, but ensuring a healthy mutual exchange. Speak up. Express your feelings and needs. If the other person values the relationship, they'll make an effort to balance things out. If they don't, it may be time to reassess the relationship. Remember, as a wise Stoic of the modern world, your peace and well-being are paramount. In a relationship, both parties should feel valued and heard, not just one. Sign 10. Betrayal. In the landscape of relationships, betrayal is a silent storm that roars beneath the surface, often going unnoticed until it strikes like an insidious vine. It wraps around the pillars of trust, slowly suffocating them. You may wonder, how to identify this stealthy threat? Well, awareness is your first line of defense. Pay attention to the balance between giving and receiving in your interactions. Is there a consistent pattern where you're always giving and they're always receiving? It's like a game of emotional tug-of-war, where you're left drained and dissatisfied. Now let's talk solutions. It's not just about identifying the problem, but taking action. Stoicism teaches us the power of perception and reaction. You have control over how you perceive and react to these situations. If betrayal lurks in your relationships, face it with the calm of an experienced Stoic. Have an open dialogue, but also establish firm boundaries. It's not just about pointing fingers, but understanding the dynamics and deciding your path forward. Will you mend the crack or build something new? The choice is yours, but make it wisely. Keep in mind that your emotional well-being is paramount, and you have the strength to choose a path that aligns with your values and self-respect. Sign 11. Selective availability. A subtle yet powerful tool of manipulation often hides behind the excuse of a busy life. Imagine you're the go-to person, always on standby, ready to intervene whenever called upon. Your presence is constant, like a beacon in the darkness. But change the scene and there's a stark difference. Their availability is like catching a glimpse of a shooting star, rare and on their terms. It's not about scheduling conflicts, it's a tactical choice. They keep you at arm's length, controlling the tides of the relationship. You find yourself in a dance where the steps are always dictated by them. Your messages float in the digital void, and your calls echo unanswered. When they do reach out, it's often to serve their own agenda, reducing you to a mere convenience in their story. This imbalance undermines your self-esteem, leading to questions. Are you valued? Do your efforts truly matter? This is where Stoicism becomes relevant, offering a perspective to reassess and strengthen your stance. Stoicism teaches the art of perception, urging you to see situations as they really are, stripping away the emotional haze. It's about recognizing your worth independent of others. Remember that your value isn't tied to their whims. Embrace the Stoic practice of self-reflection. Reflect on the dynamics of the relationship, not with bitterness, but with clarity. It's not about building walls, but establishing boundaries, understanding that mutual respect and effort are the foundations of a healthy relationship. In this journey of self-discovery, remember, you are the sculptor of your own self-esteem, not just a mere spectator in someone else's narrative. Sign 12. Inducing guilt. When it comes to being used, guilt is the favorite tool of a skilled manipulator. It's a sneaky trick that makes you feel like you're always owing something to someone. They might say things like, "After all, everything I've done for you," or "I thought you cared about me," turning every favor into a debt you never asked for. This tactic plays with your goodwill, making you feel bad even for thinking about saying no. But here's the thing. Your time and energy are too precious to be granted solely by others' expectations. You absolutely owe nothing to anyone. The decision is always yours. It's not selfish to put your needs first. It's necessary. The art of saying no is crucial here. It's about respecting yourself enough to set boundaries. Remember that your kindness is not a currency to be spent on others' demands. Stoicism teaches us not to allow others to control our emotions. When someone uses guilt to push you away, they're trying to take control of the steering wheel of your feelings. Don't allow it. Take a step back and ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because I feel like I should? Stoics believe in acting according to reason, not pressure. It's about being true to yourself. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Trust your intuition. You have the power to choose how to react, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to say no. It's not just about avoiding being used, but about living a life that is genuinely yours. Sign 13. Lack of personal interest. If you often feel like you're playing tennis against a wall in conversations, you're probably under the sway of a one-sided relationship. Your words serve only as background for the solo performance of the other person. It's like pouring your thoughts and feelings into a bottomless pit, hoping for an echo only to be met with silence. This is not just about being heard, but about being acknowledged. A true conversation is a word dance, a give and take that enriches both participants. When you find yourself repeatedly sidelined in discussions, it's a glaring sign. It's not just about poor communication, it's a sign that you're being used as a listener rather than valued as a partner in dialogue. Stoicism teaches us the importance of mutual respect and empathy in relationships. If you're consistently ignored, it's time to question the value and health of the connection. Your voice deserves a place, not a void. Countering this imbalance isn't about shouting louder, but discerning where your voice is valued. Stoicism encourages us to focus on what we can control, and in this scenario, it's the choice of whom we engage with. If your words fall on disinterested ears, it may be time to redirect your conversation to those who truly listen. This isn't giving up, it's choosing to invest your emotional energy wisely. It's a form of self-respect to seek relationships where your thoughts and feelings are not only heard, but valued. Your experiences and emotions are not secondary lines in someone else's story. They are the essence of your unique narrative. Choose to share them where they're not just heard, but echoed back with the same intensity and interest. Sign 14. Unilateral conversations. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where it seems like you're just a pair of ears there to absorb someone else's saga? That's a unilateral conversation, a sneaky trap in the game of social exchanges. Picture yourself fully attentive to their stories, agreeing with every word, offering those supportive ahas. But the moment you try to contribute your part, there's a sudden shift. They lose interest, fidget, or worse, steer the conversation back to their favorite subject, themselves. It's like playing tennis with someone who won't let you serve. Frustrating, right? If this sounds all too familiar, it's time for a reality check. Stoicism isn't about enduring in silence, but recognizing your value and asserting it with quiet confidence. In these one-way conversations, you're more than just a backdrop to someone else's monologue. You're a person with your own rich tapestry of stories and insights. Next time you find yourself sidelined in a conversation, gently steer it back to a fair exchange. If they evade, it's a clear sign they're more interested in an audience than a conversation. Always remember that in the art of dialogue, your voice is not an echo, but a melody that deserves to be heard. Stand firm in your value, and don't hesitate to seek the balance that every meaningful interaction requires. Sign 15. Superficiality. Navigating the maze of modern relationships, a subtle yet pervasive trap is superficiality. It's like a mirage of intimacy, where actions and words create an illusion of connection, but lack the substance of true emotional depth. This is the type of relationship where plans are often made, and just as often discarded, where promises are as fragile as autumn leaves. This pattern is not just a hiccup in communication, it's a deliberate strategy. The person maintains just enough closeness to benefit from your presence without truly investing themselves. It's an interaction based on convenience, where you might feel more like a utility in their lives than a valued individual. Recognizing this pattern is more than just a moment of realization, it's a call to reassess the dynamics of your relationships. Does the balance of emotional investment heavily lean in their favor? Do you feel the weight of unreciprocated efforts? It's crucial to see these signs not as a reflection of your worth, but as a signal to shift towards relationships that honor mutual respect and genuine connection. Stoicism teaches us about the value of authenticity and living a life true to our principles. In doing so, we must be brave to step away from those who treat relationships as mere conveniences. Instead, we should seek connections rooted in sincerity, where mutual growth and support are the foundations. It's in these authentic interactions that we find not only companionship, but a shared journey towards personal and collective growth. Sign 16. Continuous lack of respect. Walking through life with someone who constantly ignores your feelings is like navigating a maze without a map. You find yourself in a relationship where your voice fades into the background and your needs are just whispers against their loud demands. Recognizing this continuous lack of respect is crucial. It's not just about big arguments, but the everyday things. Does your partner listen when you speak, or do they brush off your thoughts like swatting a fly? When you express your feelings, do they respect them or trample them like an elephant in a china shop? Stoicism teaches us the value of self-awareness and understanding our own worth. If you constantly feel small, unheard, and unappreciated, it's a glaring warning sign. It's not about dramatic confrontations, but about the subtle signs, the disdainful looks, the sarcastic comments, the decisions made without your input. These are the signs that indicate you're being used as a pawn in their game, not valued as a partner in a team. Transforming from a passive recipient of disrespect to an assertive defender of your worth requires more than just recognition. It requires action. If your conversations feel like walking on eggshells, where your words are twisted or ignored, it's time to reassess. Stoicism isn't about maintaining an unflappable expression in the face of difficulties, but about recognizing and focusing on what's within your control. You can't change their behavior, but you can change how you respond to it. Assert your feelings clearly and firmly. If they're late for the umpteenth time, don't just sigh and accept it. Express how it makes you feel undervalued. If your opinions are constantly ignored, speak up. It's not about starting a fight, but about defending your dignity. Your feelings matter, your opinions matter, you matter. This isn't just about finding harmony in your relationship, but ensuring that your voice is heard and respected. A Stoic isn't a doormat. They're someone who understands their own worth and insists on being treated with the respect they deserve. Thank you for participating in this guided session by the wisdom of Stoicism. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like. Your interaction helps us create more content that aligns with your journey towards self-improvement and understanding relationships. Remember, knowledge has power only when shared and applied, so share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section below. If you're unsure what to comment, simply say, "I value authentic connections in my life." Stay strong, stay mindful, and keep striving for a better version of yourself. Until our next video.